Good evening. An absolutely cracking evening to everyone. I hope everyone is okay. Please come on, show me some love. Get in the comments. Put some comments in. Yours truly, Big John here. I've just been looking through the nomination list for Hollingwood, and it looks fucking sorry. I mean, the nominations list for all of Oldham, and it looks sorry. I did think there was more independents coming up, but some of the wards there isn't. But there's at least 2 or 3 Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem candidates in every ward. There's 2 independents besides me in my ward. So we'll see what goes on. But yeah, it's exciting times for me. Nice pint of coffee there. Come on, you lot, where are you? I don't see anyone in the chat. What's up with y'all? Remember, when you come onto my stream, I don't just make streams up of personal things to do with particular people in the cause. I just don't do it. We talk about relevant things, and today we're going to be talking about the grooming gangs. And as we know, good evening, Claire. Yes, Arlene. You won't believe it, but my black one's disappeared. I think it's been smashed and no one's told me. So Rishi Sunak said he was going to deal. You'll see the picture I put up. It says he's going to deal with the grooming gangs. This is something off Channel 4. This fact check: nearly every police force investigated a grooming gang. And I don't care what people said, there is a big issue in the UK with grooming gangs, especially the makeup of them, which is Pakistani. Now, you know, I'm not having a go at religion or anything, but if we leave someone to be a paedophile, then they're always going to be a paedophile. One thing I've said, and I've said for all the time I've ever campaigned, is there's never been no responsibility or accountability within councils and services. If we look at the Jays report into Rotherham, massive failings across the council, full of intimidation, bullying, sexism. The council at the time was, and there's ex-councillors who said this, Kay William off Twitter, when they go into meetings, are not allowed to mention grooming gangs. So I'm not having any liberal, any stand up to racism person tell me that there is not an issue going on with Pakistani grooming gangs. The Rochdale Free Girls scandal, a lot was put to the police there because the police branded the girls as prostitutes, and that's why the men were allowed to get away with so much. And the local council in Rochdale, the local council leader at the time, after an investigation into Holmes abuse at Knoll View, and the inquiry found that he lied. I think we've got Paul in now.
Evening, John.
Good evening, Mr. Rimmer.
John, you're just going to have to give me 2 minutes. Okay, carry on talking. Be back in 2.
No worries. So, yeah, Knoll View, the Labour Council leader at the time, lied to an inquiry. But then, he's left Labour there, but he's gone working with Joe Anderson in Liverpool, believe it or not. So he didn't get sacked, didn't get kicked out. He went working in another department under Joe Anderson. And look what happened in Liverpool. We're looking at £100 million fraud within the council. So, you know, this is what happens. This is a kind of punishment that people get. In the Rotherham case, the council walked out the day the report was made, was put online. And most of the council, the main members of the council, just moved into other jobs. And some guys even got... Thank you, Squiggle. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, Pat. Gerald, good evening, Gerald. No, I'm not. It's election time now, Gerald. I've got leaflets to get out, and I've got this month to do. So I won't be going anywhere outside of Oldham. If I do go somewhere, it will be the Wirral, but that'll be election stuff again. But after the elections, I will be looking at getting out here and there and traveling around. Hopefully, Eddie. Hopefully. Thank you very much, anyone who's come over from UNN. Thank you, Squiggle. Thank you very much. Don't forget, subscribe to my channel, my DLive channel. I am streaming there live now. Let me just get on, see if there's any comments. Yeah. 13 followed me today. Nice. Takes my count up to 80. So if you're on UNN, if you're on DLive, please look at our stream. Got the mighty Paul Rimmer here. As we know, Rishi said he's going to deal with the rape gangs. Whether or not he does, I don't know. But it can't be an issue that can be dealt with just in one town. I don't believe that. We need a national way of dealing with this issue nationally. Not just in one town. So hopefully, one of the big things of our party is still going to be talking about grooming gangs. We haven't made any policies up yet, but we're looking at making up policies so we can go forward and, as councillors, deal with child sexual exploitation with our wards and our towns, and set plans out to help the girls afterwards and everything to do with it. And there is little bits going on. I've been to Hull last year, as a lot of you know, and they've got it really tuned in to what they're doing, supporting victims and survivors. One of them we met, which was Kim, really making a turnaround in her life. But the help didn't come off the social services. It never came off the council. It came up to individuals such as me and Paul, to start it off to where this girl got help, where we would think that our social services or the government would have a responsibility, but they shun it all the time. So good evening, Mr. Rinner. I hope you're all right, sir.
Bit rushed off me feet, but here we go, John. We've got to look at the history first of these grooming gangs. Of course, the sexual exploitation that's taking place now is also a bit different, because we're seeing, especially in Germany and now in England as well, it's the Afghans who are carrying out sexual abuse. They're actually raping women. Where in the past, these grooming gangs are about raping, drugging, and prostituting women. It was done for money primarily. People forget that. And there's a real history here, a history that the Labour Party would love to brush under the carpet. But we're going to unwrap a bit of it tonight, John, because Sarah Champion, who was a Labour MP, was asked to investigate what was actually going on across Britain with these Pakistani grooming gangs. And she produced an horrendous figure. Hundreds of thousands of girls have been abused. Hundreds of thousands of girls have been lured or groomed, have been enticed to sexual relations with Pakistani boys, and then their uncles, and then the whole community. They were being prostituted out to the whole community. And a lot of these girls were as young as 12, 11. They were given drugs. A number of them died of drugs overdoses. Many of them suffered drug addiction because of what was happening. They were plied with alcohol. They were taken to houses, and they were forced to have sex. I mean, horrendous sex with multiple groups of Pakistani men. And the police knew everything that was going on. So did the social services, so did the probation services, and so did the politicians. And I remember Gordon Brown's Home Secretary, what was her name? Jackie, do you remember her, John?
The one who tried to get the reduce the age of consent, maybe, was this?
No, the one who sent the letter around to the police forces of Britain to say, don't get involved with these issues with the girls. The girls
Yeah.
are willing. They're willing to take part. Jackie Smith, I think her name was. They're willing to take part in this, and it's their own choice. Totally ignoring the fact that a lot of these girls were underage, so they didn't give them a choice to consent to this. And secondly, a lot of them were forced. I mean, we hear tales of Pakistani taxi drivers ferrying kids between children homes, taking the kids to brothels instead. I had a friend, Tex, who lived in St. Helens, who tried to intervene in a children's home to stop these Pakistani groomer gangs forcefully taking away children, and he was physically attacked. Now, when fathers and uncles and brothers and boyfriends and just concerned citizens tried to stop this, the police arrested them. The police arrested the fathers. And the whole thing was wrapped around this notion, this was during the new Labour government, that we were all racist and we were picking on the Pakistani community, and we had a duty to be culturally sensitive to the Pakistani community. Now, that cultural sensitivity was based on the notion that Pakistanis do not have an age of consent. In Pakistan, there's no like you can only start sex when you're 16. They start when they want to, and they base it on the Prophet. And of course, the Prophet had thigh sex with Aisha when she was just 6 years old, and he penetrated her when she was 9, a little 9-year-old girl. She started sexual relations with the Prophet. This is in the book, The Life of Muhammad, that they read. So this is their role model. So they don't even acknowledge our age of consent. This is the clash of cultures, John. They come into our country. They're bringing these people in. They're saying they're going to police them. They can't police them because culturally they're so different. You see, back home, the women and girls of Pakistan, the Muslim community, are strongly protected. And if you infringe anything on them sexually, you will pay a heavy price, even your life. I mean, the honor of Pakistani girls is highly prized, so you don't interfere with them. So they come to this country, and a lot of them did come to this country for sex. They thought these Western girls are easy. We'll just scoop them up. And of course, we were stopped by the police from resisting them. And tens of thousands of girls in town after town, Rotherham, Burnley, Blackburn, Keighley, Bradford, Birmingham, town after town, wherever there was a substantial Muslim community, these girls were scooped up and taken into these rackets that they were creating. It was a criminal enterprise, and they plied these girls with drugs. A lot of them died. They got pregnant. They were forced to have abortions. A lot of them were traumatized. They suffered mental illnesses. They're still suffering now. Many of them are still on medication now, as you know, John. It was an horrendous episode, but the Labour Party, who were in government, did nothing about it. In 2003, they passed a law called the Grooming Act to say that grooming young girls was illegal in this country. It was an unnecessary law because we already had the Indecency Act in 1956, which covered that. They passed that act to try and stop the rise of the BNP, to try and head off public concern about these grooming gangs. Now, the Labour Party, when they were in power, it was all about spin. They passed acts and they did nothing. I hope the Conservatives aren't going to do the same, but I've got a feeling they are. Because the local elections are coming up, they're spinning, John. It's a spin operation.
Well, Paul, you know, you say it so eloquently most of the time, but you know, I have to agree everything with you. There's so much more behind it, though, and a personal. This happened to me in 2009, and it's one of the things in my life that spurred me on to campaign against the unaccountability of the councils and stuff like that. Was
just carry on, John. I've got to take a 2-minute break.
No worries. Was ladies and gents. I living in Bradford, and I went up there 2007. Met a guy. He had a family. They weren't poor. The child weren't in care. He split up with the missus. She went to South Yorkshire, and the kid ended up getting groomed. Now, at the time, there was no. It wasn't the fact she'd been sexually assaulted. It was the grooming bit. Now, my mate at the time had evidence, so 4 of us travelled to Sheffield police station, or a police station in Sheffield. I don't remember which one it were. I'm not sure if it was the main one, but we went to a police station in Sheffield and tried to report it. The police wouldn't have nothing to do with it. They wouldn't listen to us or anything. And this was a point in my life where I had to make a decision where I was going. Now, I moved back to Manchester 2012, got into campaigning, fighting about this very subject. The Jay's report came 2014. The 3 girls scandal had just happened, and then Telford happened, all within a couple of years of me getting back. And I lost track of my friend in this particular case, but it was a Patriot in the northeast who sent me a list of men who'd been arrested and charged with child sexual exploitation, rape gang kind of thing. But this was after the report came out. This wasn't at the same time the report came, it's well after this. And I did find out that the 2 guys were convicted of crimes to do with this case, to do with my mate. So he didn't get no, this was 2009 and 2017 or 18. That's in the evidence that the case had gone forward and people had been convicted. The case wasn't in the papers. It wasn't front page in any paper thing. It was kept quiet. The family didn't want too much said. And when I have talked about it before, I've been messaged off people, and we've got to remember how far this goes within our communities and how many girls haven't reported, and how many cases that have gone through but no one knows nothing about. And what it was, a friend's daughter had a report from school, and on the report it said Operation Sanctuary. She sent me a copy of the report. She sent it me. A copy of the report. I did a bit of research, and then I got back to her and said, asked her a few questions about the kid. I said, is this child? Are they in the social services? No. Did he have a good family, mum and a dad? Yeah. What about this child's friends? Do you know much about her friends? She didn't say a lot, but in the end, it ended up that some of her friends were involved with child sexual exploitation and rape gangs at the time in South Yorkshire. And she must have known these girls. And through the police's investigations and all that, this girl's name flagged up. But I was assured that she wasn't in any trouble. I was assured she wasn't at any kind of risk. They just wondered why it would have to say Operation Sanctuary on the report. And I did tell the mother that she should contact the school, then contact the police and ask about it. And as far as I know, she would have done research, looked into Operation Sanctuary and then done that. But, you know, the far outreaching of this, we only hear of crimes that are on the top. We don't hear of anything else underneath. For years, these crimes were even, these people who'd done these crimes weren't convicted of the right things. In the beginning, they were convicted of minor offences. And it's only now with public pressure that they get more serious offences. And as I pointed out, a lot of the cases now, they have multiple crimes of firearms, drugs, weapons, trafficking, obviously, kidnapping, all that lot. Threats to kill, it's a common one. It's a common one in all the cases. You look at any case, the past 5 or 6 cases I've been to in Yorkshire, and Active and Amanda were there, threats to kill on the charges. And these charges were ignored years ago. No one got done for it. It just is Paul back.
Yeah, back, John. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm glad you brought up drugs there, because these are massive criminal operations, and they still are. I mean, these Pakistani gangs, they've got links back to Pakistan. They're bringing heroin in huge quantities. Now they're involved in the cocaine business. Of course, the Albanians have basically taken over the UK cocaine business, which is a huge business. The Nigerians are involved as well. But these people, they come to Britain and they just see us as a soft touch, John, because that's what they are. That's what we are. We've allowed this word racist to dominate us for too long. Instead of being realistic and using common sense to deal with these people, we've given them sort of special protections under the law. And the police were intimidated in many ways by this. I mean, the police they were cowards, the police. They were scared to be called out instead of standing up to, and ultimately the police just served the local politicians and the national politicians. And if they're getting the vibe from the local politicians that we don't want you to lean too heavily on any particular community, Pakistani, Albanian, Nigerian, whatever, the police back off. Instead of putting the safety of people first, instead of putting the safety of our children first, they put their political considerations first. That tops their job to enforce law and order. They think it politically, and a lot of the appointments for chief constables now are political appointments. Now, it wasn't until Theresa May became the Home Secretary in 2010, May 2010, after the general election, when New Labour were kicked out, that these gangs started to be seriously prosecuted. And then we saw in case after case, Halifax, Huddersfield, Leeds, Keighley, everywhere, all over Yorkshire, all over Lancashire, all over the Midlands, all over London, we saw these gangs of Pakistani men hauled before the court. But they were only the tip of the iceberg, because they were the pimps in many ways, and they were the drug dealers. But the whole Pakistani community was using these girls as prostitutes. We forget that. Every time these Pakistani men paid 20, 30 pounds to have sex with one of these girls, they were breaking the law. These were minors, these girls, most of them were underage. Now, what really worries me is the bigger picture. You see, now, not only are the Muslim communities still protected, still has special rights under the law, a lot of these Muslim communities now control the political system. It's their members who are councillors and who are running councils and are making the decisions, who are controlling the police. So the protection now is double locked in a way. And we don't, these people, they're not running their areas objectively. They run it with an agenda to promote their community, their faith, their goal, dawah, to change. They're bringing in more people all the time. The numbers are incredible. I mean, in the last 30 years, the Muslim population in Western Europe has increased tenfold since 1993. For example, in Spain in 1993, there were 300,000 Muslims. There's now 3 million. In France, there were around 1 million Muslims. There's now over 10 million. And these are just Muslims, of course. There's also Africans and other groups that have come in huge numbers. Same in Germany, from 1 to 10 million. In this country, it's gone from around 1 million to around 8. I believe there's 8 million Muslims now in this country. I know the official figure on the census is 4 million, half of that. But I mean, you go to London, you can tell straight away what the area after area now is just a Muslim colony. And it's the same in Birmingham, it's the same in Manchester, the same in Bradford, it's the same in Blackburn, Luton, town after town, city after city. We've reached the point of transformation here, John, demographic transformation, where this culture is no longer secondary and hidden. It's confident, it's asserting itself, and it's virtually unchallengeable. I mean, I take my hat off Sulia Bravo, man, for pointing out what's going on, because she's got a lot of flack for that. But of course, the Conservatives don't represent this Muslim community. It votes Labour. And the Labour Party is totally beholden to it. So when Sulia Braverman will say anything which has got an ounce of common sense, the Labour Party cry foul. You're not allowed to talk common sense when you're dealing with these people. You've got to bow down to them. You've got to defer to them. You've got to pretend all the time that they're the victims of somebody, usually of white people. It's a total nonsense. And I fear if Labour get back into power, we're going to enter a very sinister world where these people will be empowered, and we, the indigenous people of Britain, we will be oppressed, we will be accused, we will be held down by the heel of the whole force of the state. In America, they call it anarcho-tyranny. There'll be anarchy because various groups will be empowered to do whatever they want, including criminality, but there'll be tyranny because anyone who opposes them will be smashed by the state. If Labour get in power, it's going to be a dystopia in this country, John. It's going to be hell on earth because they're going to really change everything in this country for the worse.
Yeah, definitely, we will. I've just my nomination went in, so the list of statements of persons nominated is up on the Oldham Council site, so I'm there. It's funny. It's funny. I just got to say this, that like I put my addresses there, my home address. Yeah, there is an independent running who on a leaflet says that she lives there, but she hasn't put her home address on. Like, I don't get why they don't put their address up. I can on some people, but I can't think on others. But my address is there, and I'm running in the elections, guys. Honestly, I'm running in the elections. So it's just an exciting time. But the scandal of these gangs is too much to bear because nobody's done nothing, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. It's a big thing. I've wrote it on. It's on my leaflet, and I said about the rape gangs and the no accountability of anybody, and we just let these people do it. Now, one thing I've always said, and I said this to Graham Stringer, Member of Parliament for Blakely and Broughton at Hustings, room were full of Muslims, and I stood up, me, said, you never deal with issues when they come, like the riots. You never dealt with them, and you certainly don't deal with rape gangs and child sexual exploitation, and people just carry on. And I said it in the room full, and everyone clapped when I said it. And afterwards, he came out with a statement. He said, the man from Oldham, and I were here, it's not that like he couldn't see me. And he said, we have learnt lessons, especially since the riots in Oldham in 2001. And then less than a month later, it came out that Victoria Agolia had died, and she'd been raped by over 100 men, and only one man was convicted of anything to do with her death. One man. The police knew where she were going, who were picking her up. She got reported 150 times missing from a care home. They knew everything about the men doing it. They knew what they were linked to. They must have known they were linked to drugs gangs, and they did nothing. And she died. And he said they'd learnt lessons. So there was no lessons learned for Victoria. And we've campaigned hardcore on Victoria's case and on accountability. Still to this day, only one single man has been convicted of anything to do with her abuse and her death, and he got convicted for giving her heroin. That's all. There's no rape charges on anyone. There's no sexual assault charges on anyone, even though they knew that she'd been raped by over 100 men. When we see these cases, the last case I went to, there was 18 people up in Bradford. And this was part of one gang against 3 girls, I think. And when you looked at the reports, it said in the reports that hundreds of men had raped these girls, but there's only 18 up from the gang, but hundreds of men had raped these girls. So I think that if we had proper figures and people were convicted, and not the ones who do the trafficking, the ones who've had sex with these girls, whoever they are, then the figures that we see and that people believe that tells us that we've got a problem with Pakistanis would be massive. But it's been well covered up. The law doesn't take that into account. even though you'll see it on all the reports, every inquiry, anything, any document, any book done on rape gangs will tell you it's hundreds of men, but only 18 get done. It's just ridiculous. And again,
well, the police have admitted, John, that they knew exactly what was going on. They knew who the culprits were. They knew it was criminal behaviour, but they didn't take action because of fears of being accused of racism. That became the excuse for the police not to interfere. Now, the truth may have been that the police were shackled, but the police have admitted responsibility now, especially over this Victoria Agolia case. They knew she was being abused. And often the police would be called to incidents and they find these Pakistani men abusing these young white girls. And instead of arresting the Pakistani men, they would arrest the young white girls. It was an easy way out for them. The police were intimidated. We've seen instances in London where black gangs have legged the police. The police have run. I mean, the police, they've lost a lot of respect. They're not the police that we knew when we were growing up. A lot of them are the cowards, the weak people, because they haven't got the right mentality, and because they're intimidated by political correctness, they're not acting like they should be. Now, hopefully that could be changed, but, I'm not overly confident about that. Now, but one of the things is the breakdown of the British family as well. The fact that this whole cultural Marxist agenda has been about pushing men and fathers out of homes, making women dependent on the state and raising single parent families. And with the men out the way, these girls are, as Jack Straw said, who was the Home Secretary, easy meat for the Pakistani gangs. Remember that term he used about the white girls? They're easy meat for the Pakistani gangs. And he was the MP for Blackburn, so he was on top of it all. He was at the epicenter of it. But our communities and our families and our society has been totally undermined by political correctness, by this whole agenda to point the finger at white men and say, toxic masculinity or authoritarian personality, all comes from cultural Marxism. And they want us out the way, and then the kids are available. They're vulnerable. They're easy meat. They're easy to get hold of, and they're easy to dominate. And what's a woman going to do if Pakistani men arrive at her home and take her child away? She could ring the police, but then the police are reluctant to get involved. It would be fathers in the past who defended their families. We have to get back to this family structure. As a nation, John, we have to turn back to our traditional way of life, where the local men protected the local community, where fathers protected their families. Especially with the sheer number of immigrants coming in, we're all vulnerable now. We're vulnerable because there's an incredible criminality in these immigrant communities. I mean, I was looking at statistics about rapes in Germany, and the average Afghan is 150 times more likely to rape a German woman than a German. 150 times. And it's the same for Syrians, it's the same for Iraqis, because in their culture, if a woman is unprotected and unescorted, she's available. And we're not waking up to this cultural reality. People talk about multiculturalism. These people are not integrating. They don't accept our standards. They don't accept our ways of life. And you can hardly blame them now, because we've gone from bad to worse, with all this transgenderism and pushing homosexuality and easy divorce, abortion, mass abortion. We're not worthy of respect. We need to get back to our Christian traditional values, which made us strong, which made our families strong, and protected those who are vulnerable in our community. No one's speaking up for these girls. Theresa May said that when she became Home Secretary. She said, because they're lower class and they're not integrated into society, they might be in children's homes, in broken families, nobody really values them. And that's a tragedy, John, for our whole society. Now, you're standing as a candidate in a local election. This is one right we still have in this country, to stand as candidates and seek the votes, the approval of our fellow citizens. And we've got to exercise that right. We've got to use politics to empower our communities and our people again. And of course, we know the Conservatives are only playing a game. It's all rhetoric. I mean, they're talking about stopping the boats. They're talking about protecting our children. They do nothing in reality. There's been no extra arrest. No boats have been stopped. They're still pouring in. The problem is still escalating. There's no real action. We've heard this empty rhetoric for over a decade now, and it usually comes up just before an election. We need people who talk the talk and walk the walk, people who represent the people, who actually have got connections and roots in local communities like yourself, John, who can stand for election and seek the approval of their fellow residents. And it's up to the British people to wake up. I know they're dominated by this huge corporate sort of political machine which tells them how to vote. If the Conservatives aren't doing well, vote Labour. If Labour aren't doing well, vote Conservatives. The two cheeks of the same backside. They're both a waste of space. We need new voices. We need independence. We need the National Housing Party. We need people who speak up for the real folk of this country. And this is what we've got to do. We've got to make use of the political system while it's still available. And this is why we want people to get involved. We want candidates. I mean, I've been leafleting in the Wirral, been getting a great response on the doorstep. We need people to join the party. Let's create a vehicle that can actually speak up for what is right again in our communities. Thanks,
yeah,
John.
definitely, Paul. I mean, they're not gonna speak about the rape gangs. Nobody speaks about it. They make a lot of noise on the council and a bit on social media, but I haven't seen anything on anybody's leaflet to do with child sexual exploitation. Not one thing, and it's been on my leaflet for a year. And everyone who looks at the leaflet agrees everything that I say about it. And you know, like, I do feel that like I should be a certain way, but there's people in my ward, Paul, and I met a mother who's a mother of a victim of child sexual exploitation. You know what I mean? And you know, like, I find it feels it's personal to me because it's something I do a lot on videos and talk about that I have to get involved in. And you know, it's every community. Don't think that your ward or your area is free of this. It won't be. It won't be. It just really won't be. And I've been given some information that the same group of men who've been working in Haywood during the Free Girls scandal are still operating today. And I was enraged yesterday being told this. Enraged. And the same things are happening in Rochdale that happened during the Free Girls scandal. And the kebab houses, girls being picked up and stuff like that. It's still happening. And it's happening just across the road from where I am. That's how far Haywood is. And, you know, it's wrong. And we have to do something. But again, National Housing Party, nobody says anything on the leaflets. Remember that. They might be big and voiceful on social media, but when you stand up to be a candidate, you know who is the right one. You know who's a lion or who's a pussy, right? I'm the lion. I write on my leaflet that the issues that people have. Immigration is an issue with everybody in the UK. Whether you're against it or for it, it's an issue for everyone. So, you know, I'm the lion, me. I'm not the pussycat who will just like do the leaflet trying to get the votes. I do the leaflet to show you why I want your votes, why you should be voting for me, because voting for other people is not going to work. Certainly if they're in the mainstream parties, it is not going to work. We need to get them out, and then you'll soon see a big change in UK politics and thought and the way things go. And I'll tell you what, if we got more nationalist people in, you'll see a change in the whole political system. You'll see political correctness going out the window, and you'll see people just pack and leave because they know they can't get away with the murders that they've been getting away with. honestly, it will change, but we just got to get to that precipice.
The thing is, John,
in the chat earlier on, Observer Dude, Alistair, you said you don't believe.
1 second, John.
Where's he brought it? Come on, Alistair, you might have deleted it. What do you mean, though? Are you talking about the Quilliam report by any chance, Alistair? Not having a go at you or anything. Definitely not. You're a lovely lad, you. So, are you talking about the Quilliam report, which has been contested? But you know what? I don't need no facts and figures, me, to believe that we have an issue in this country. I'm ignorant of facts and figures. My living life reports, inquiries that we've done, the Jay's report, Robin. We've had more than half a dozen major reports, and every single one of them points to the same thing. There's no hiding away from it. We don't need to know any figures, but all these fingers are pointing to the same thing, which is mostly Pakistani grooming gangs. And you really there's nothing's going to change with me on what I believe. And like I said, there is a lot of evidence, but I think the Quilliam report was you were going on Observer Dude. So yeah, to do with the Quilliam report was it wasn't done on a big, wide amount of people. It was only done on a small amount of people. And that's why people are disreputing it. But even if they disrepute it, again, there's lots of other evidence to point that like what it says is right.
Well, there's a woman in Rotherham, John, Marlene Guest, and she didn't believe what she was being told by the police or the media or the establishment. So she did her own research, and she started to build up profiles of girls who were being abused. She got their names. She got into the networks. She interviewed a lot of girls. She found out the reality on the street, what was actually happening, not the official story, but the reality. And rapidly she realized there was thousands of girls involved, and there was a horrendous abuse taking place. And the authorities and the agencies which were supposed to protect these girls were failing. They were not doing their job. They were actually often complicit in the abuse. So even the Quilliam Foundation, Quilliam was a Manxman, wasn't he? He converted to Islam. Even them, they're pushing an agenda. Let's soft soak the British people. Trust your own experience. Trust the reality that you see out there. I don't believe the mass media anymore. I just see it as left-wing propaganda. I trust people I know whose opinions I value, who I know I've got a spirit of honesty in them. I listen to them, and I go and explore and find out for myself. Now, John, you spoke about being a lion for the local community, about standing up and being bold, standing up to exploitation in whatever force. But sadly, most politicians in this country, they're mice. They're not lions. They're a little mouse. And they do as their parties tell them. They're hacks. They're bought and paid for. They're only taking the positions in the Labour Party or the Conservative Party to improve their own lives. They're not serving communities. They're not patriotic. They haven't got a heart for their local communities. They just push agendas, whether it be a trade union agenda or a business agenda or a politically correct agenda. And they're not speaking for the people. They're not tribunes of the people. That's what the elected representatives are supposed to be. Voices for the people against power and doing things in the interest of the people to protect the people. You mentioned mass immigration. Every election that I've ever known, the people have voted to reduce mass immigration or to stop it, and yet it just gets worse and worse. This is not democracy. They're not listening to the voices of the people or the needs of the people or the heart of the people. They're overriding them. You see, the main political parties, what they're actually engaged in is a process of manipulation. They try and just to con the people to think that they're acting on their interest. I mean, a lot of working people still believe that the Labour Party represents them. The Labour Party's got no interest in the ordinary working class people. They've written them off a long time ago. They represent vested interests. I mean, one of the things about the immigrant communities is that they vote en bloc. Like the Muslims will listen to their imam and they fill in postal votes. It's amazing how they conform to what the imam wants. In some Muslim communities, you will get 99% of people voting Labour, even 100%. It's something like out of the communist system. It's a joke. It's the opposite of democracy. Democracy is supposed to be about individuals making their minds up, but these people vote en bloc. You've got to get the ordinary people organised and mobilised again. I mean, as I said earlier, in 2003, Labour brought out the Grooming Act in response to the rise of the BNP, because the BNP were raising this issue of the abuse of white girls by Pakistani grooming gangs, and it was resonating, and Labour panicked. We need this. Like the reason we got the referendum on the EU, on Brexit, was because UKIP rose as a force and represented the will of the people. We in the National Housing Party have got to represent the will of the ordinary people in this country, which is to stop mass immigration, which is no more refugees. All the ones who are turning up here are bogus. They don't deserve to have access to our country. They're coming in. The government said they're going to be tough on them. The government's described them as invaders, but they're giving them everything. I mean, not just doctors and solicitors and translators. They're giving them dentists and mobile phones and hotel rooms and access to social housing. They're making them privileged citizens of this country, and they're actually just criminal invaders they shouldn't be here. And yet they're getting our resources at a time when it's very tough for people because of the cost of living crisis. There's a real shortage of housing, and we need local people like yourself, John, to speak up for people.
I just want to go. I mean, if people want to know names, links, who said what and stuff like that, a series of videos to watch, and it's called Beyond Easy Meat, and it's by a guy called Horace, and I put the link in for you. Now, there was a book called Easy Meat by Peter McLaughlin that came out. Brutal book. Definitely one to read if you want to know about rape gangs. But since then, Horace has done one which covers things that are more up to date, such as Telford and stuff like that. And in it, he's made sure that he's told you who says what, which directive came out, which party was involved, which he mentions councillors' names, police officers' names, and everything in his video. And if you want to watch and listen to what evidence there is and stuff about the cases, then Beyond Easy Meat is the one. So I'll put the link in the chat. I don't often do this of anyone's personal account, but I know Horace, and we have done a video together on the rape gangs. And but if you want to read more about it, read more of the fine intricacies involved in all the cover-ups, the council denials, the social services, the threats and intimidation towards councillors, people who worked in social services, council employees, then that Beyond Easy Meat is the book to read. But thank you very much, everyone. It's 10 minutes to go. We've been talking about the rape gangs. Hopefully, Rishi will do something. Suella is brave, coming out saying what she's saying, definitely, because she's had such a backlash off the left. And Mark Williams is in chat. Thank you, Mark. If you can email if you can email Pat, Mark, for us, and let's get you and the next meeting we have, the next like party meeting, running meeting, we'll get you in, and I want you to thank you personally in front of everyone else, because you've donated several times, Mark, and you're active in the chat and everything like that. But so I'm inviting you to come to our monthly party meeting. We'll have a little brief introduction. Thank you. And then you can get off. But I want to introduce, so email me your Pat and we'll sort something out. But thank you very much, everyone. So don't forget, we have still got an issue with child sexual exploitation. It's not going to be sorted out one town at a time. It'll have to be a national thing to sort out. Otherwise, you'll clamp it out in one town, and then it'll just resurge somewhere else. And that's how it's done. That's how it's done. They can just easily operate by moving to another town because they've all got cars. That's what they've been doing, trafficking girls. And a lot of people think that it might just happen within the town with these girls. But you're looking at 90% of the girls would have been trafficked outside of their borough, especially in the northwest, Yorkshire, the northeast, them areas would have been trafficked outside of the borough. And this kind of crime never came up before in the beginning. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as trafficking crime in the UK, because they wouldn't get on it, even though they knew these girls were being trafficked. But it's took 20 years for us to push on public pressure to get these kind of things recognised in court. But Paul, any last words?
Yeah, what really concerns me now is these bogus asylum seekers. The military-age men, the single, they're coming from Afghanistan, they're coming from Albania, they're coming from Bangladesh, they're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from North Africa. They come to Britain for three things: money, citizenship, and sex. And they've come for sex. And that's not being admitted, you see. That's why they're a danger. They're walking around our public parks, our retail centres. They're hanging around. They're enticing girls. I mean, another form of grooming, really. But there's also a lot of abuse going, direct sexual assault taking place from these people. We've just seen the videos in Ireland about what's going on there. These people, why are we letting them into our country in such numbers? It strikes me this is going to cause a lot of social problems because they're not being integrated into our community. And I'm really concerned because they are a threat to our young girls, and we've got to face that. And it's time now for the men of our society to stand up and be counted, to join parties like the National Housing Party of the UK, get involved. Let's build a network to protect our children, protect our communities, and strengthen our communities and our families again. Let's go the right way. For too long, this country's been going the wrong way because we've had the wrong ideas and the wrong leadership. Let's turn that round. Let's have the right ideas, traditional Christian values. Let's build the old Britain that we all were so comfortable with and enjoyed so much. Let's bring it back. Of course, it's changed, but we can still keep what was good about the past. Let's strengthen our communities again, and we need the right people in political power to do that. And that's why we need the National Housing Party. And we want you to get on board any way you can. Donate, because we're spending a lot of money on leaflets. We're spending a lot of money on campaigns. We're building up our party structure. It costs money. We haven't got the sponsors that the Tories have, business people, or Labour with the trade unions. We're just digging into our own pockets. We're making sacrifices for our nation because we're patriots. We love Britain. We love the British people. We love our inheritance. And we're so sad to be seeing it being squandered and abused, and that the politicians in power have not protected it, not protected Britannia. We're standing up. We're standing up. We're standing up for Britain. We're making a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice of love because we love our nation. We love our people. We love our inheritance. We're a Christian party and we love our children and we want to protect them from all the dangers they face and give them a decent future. So that's what we represent, the National Housing Party of the UK.
Right, thank you, Paul. Thank you. I'm going to rant on a little bit about the party and the elections. I think I'll give it a few minutes. You can stay on if you want. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're running an election in Bristol, the Wirral, and the North Oldham. So if anyone can get in contact with in South Gloucester or Bristol area, you can get in contact with Pat on his email there. Anybody who wants to help out in Oldham over the next couple of weeks, get in contact with me. It's school holidays, so my grandniece is off, so I can get out a little bit. So if you want to get in contact with me, there's my email and there's Pat's email for Bristol. Also, we have Gary who's running in the Wirral, although they're well on to already. There's people helping there. But if you want to help us out anywhere, please get in contact with us on our emails and that there. Thank you for tuning in. Again, we haven't got a particular policy on the rape gangs or child sexual exploitation or what we're going to do yet about it. But we want these. We need ideas. We need to look at how people are working already. A particular group that I'm, two particular groups I really like. It's the Hull group and PAG UK, who look to be doing the right thing, the right way. Now, I'd love to incorporate what they do into my party so we can incorporate it into a policy. But that'll be up and coming, and it's one thing that we're not going to shy away from being a political party. Is talking about rape gangs and child sexual exploitation. Obviously, it won't always mean Pakistani rape gangs because there's all sorts of people who rape. But, you know, it's something that's got to be sorted out, and we need tougher sentences on people so you just don't do this thing. If you let a paedophile be a paedophile, he's going to continue in being a paedophile. If you don't stop a thief and give him strict punishment, then he's always going to be a thief. And we're going to have these kind of issues. If this issue had been dealt with in the right way, instead of being ignored by all the mainstream politicians and the cult of political correctness, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now. We can. When people want to talk about religion, they can do. It's not my particular talking point, but I understand. And there is religious differences and cultural differences between people. And we have the most extreme differences right here in England now. But thank you very much, Big Johnny. It's election time, everyone. It's election. I just want to go through the statement. So, persons nominated in Oldham, Alexandra Ward. There's 2 Conservative, 3 Labour, Northern Heart, Liberal Democrat, and an Independent. Chadderton, Central Chadderton. Central Chadderton is again, there's 3 Labour Party, 2 Liberals, 3 Conservatives. Oldham Heart are running 3 candidates. Chadderton North, just Conservative, Lib Dem, Labour, no Independent. Chadderton South, Warren Bates is running in Chadderton South. How come That's weird. Warren Bates is running in Chadderton South, which is Robert Barnes's ward, Conservative, but he's not on the list to run. That's mad. That is mad. So Robert Barnes, who won Arut Shah's seat last May, is not running in South Chadderton this year. He might be running in another section of Chadderton. No, he isn't. He's not running in South Chadderton. What does that tell me? Honestly, you just couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up. Coldest. Now, I have to say, coldest. There is 5 independent candidates, and one of them is called Montaz Ali Assad, who got over 2,000 votes last election. There's 5 independent councillors, 5 independent candidates, and every one of them is Muslim. On the list, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 in total. 11 in total. They're all Muslims, and there is 5 independent candidates standing. And I think I met at least one of them past couple of days. Oh my God, no, it's not 5. There's 7, 8 independent candidates running in the coldest ward. In total, there is 17 candidates running, and it's only looking like one of them is a white person, Rachel Pendlebury. Unbelievable. You just couldn't make it up. Crompton ward, Liberal, Labour, Conservative. There's not enough people standing up in some of these wards. Failsworth Independents are running. There's 3 candidates up in Failsworth East. Now, they've got 5. If they can get one more, they'll have Failsworth East and Failsworth West. They'll have 6 candidates, and they've done that in 3 years, which is a good bloody job in 3 years. Failsworth West, again, Failsworth Independents. There's only one running in Failsworth West, so that means they can't get the 6 seats. Oh, poor them. I don't know what's going on there. Why haven't they got 3 candidates in Failsworth West? That's a bit sad. And National Housing Party, 2 independents. They're both called the same name, Whitehead, so they might be man and wife or whatever. But there's 2 independents. I'm running, and then 3 Conservative, 3 Labour, and 1 Liberal Democrat. So that's my ward. I'm starting leafleting now, and I know I'm going to get a good chunk of votes. I know I am. It's just exciting, guys. You just couldn't believe how switched up and turned up I am. Fucking elections. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Let's hope Rishi can do something, but don't forget, NHPUK we're not gonna stop talking about child sexual exploitation, aka rape gangs. It's a major issue to our party. Me and Pat talked about this before we made the party. There's certain things that we've got to adhere to, but it's gonna be one of the biggest issues that we will campaign for as after ending permanent settlement. Will be the scandal of this and sorting it out. But again, I'm learning all the time, man. I'm good friends with Billy, PAG UK, and I get told a lot off Billy to do with cases all over the country. And me and Arlene were fortunate to spend a couple of times in Hull, and we met up with the team in Hull who were looking after and supporting victims and survivors, and we went to a Halloween bash for them. I actually took up 15 quid of money that had been given to me in Oldham to donate to the Hull guys. And at the time when we were up, they were just setting up Kim's flat and getting her stuff for a flat. Since then, she's had some contact with Maggie Oliver. They've been on a dinner. Ian's been as well. Ian, one of the main men up there who we met, and it's a really good blueprint on supporting and sticking up for young women. And I'm just blessed that I've been able to see this happening in real life. I've been able to talk to the survivors and the victims, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed, but also it encourages me to do more. It encourages me to talk to people when I'm walking around in the election about these kind of issues. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Big John here. You've just seen the mighty Paul Rimmer. It's election time, ladies and gentlemen. National Housing Party. I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much. Don't forget Mark Williams. Thank you, Marion. Don't forget, Mark, get in contact with us, and you can come on and have 10 minutes on our monthly meeting so I can personally thank you for your donations, your comments, your activity in our chat and all that lot. But thank you very much. Thank you.